taking a while to go live.
It is live.
Hello and welcome to all the Hillians out there. Let's hope I'm not breaking up. My internet's not very good right now. And all right, so I'm here with the excellent Highlandian, or Tom Highland, who has joined me for a few other streams. And this is going to be the first time we stream to the Brothers Hyrule channel, which is which I've kind of neglected wrongly for quite some time. So I owe an apology to that audience. And I'm going to start publishing weekly videos about one character or another. And then I'm going to try to continue my Hyrule and Ocarina and focus. Dan has someone who's going to be editing the Link to the Past stuff. So I will tell our audience this much. I'm not clear on where things are at with that stuff. But in between all such videos, we will have plenty of character analysis videos up for you all and whatnot, since that seems to be the bread and butter of the Brothers Hyrule channel. And now let's get to our usual chill stream thing, which hopefully we'll get to doing this sort of on this channel, and maybe the Brothers Azeroth with our Warcraft channel. But before I get started on that, I'm going to ask you, Tom, are you by any chance a Zelda or Warcraft fan?
I haven't really got really big into either or, but I'm more familiar with Warcraft than I am with Zelda.
No problem. No problem. Now we'll start here with our essay and story sharing. Carl Brown recommended a great article, he said, from 2 years ago, and I really liked it. It's from a scene in Star Wars Episode 1 when Qui-Gon Jinn tells Anakin, always remember, your focus determines your reality, which that's great. Now, what I love about what Carl said is that he's commented that Star Wars is full of great philosophy and that it's something that can teach you a lot. That's the beauty of George Lucas's work. He really did instill in Star Wars a great deal of philosophy and a lot of ideas. So this idea of always remember your focus determines your reality is something I thought was really helpful to see today, because I've been having a rough couple of weeks. And this was a essay I really did like. And so I really will recommend it. Star Wars is sci-fi and not fantasy. And so I wouldn't normally include it, but after reading it, I really found it was something that has to be included, as hopefully it'll help people quite a bit. And it's one of those feel-good essays. And I think we all need what you English speakers call a white pill every once in a while. The second essay is that of Ethan Sabatella, who is trying to do a survey and a presentation of sorts in a post to help market fellow fantasy writers. So I had to include it. I participated in it. And when his next one comes up, you should participate, Tom. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah, and it'll get some marketing done for you and promotion.
How often does he
Substack?
How often does he do it?
I don't know. This was the first time he did it. So
okay.
I'll tag you when it next comes up if you want. I'll tag you.
Sure.
All right. We have The Black Knight. This guy's a regular. Legacy of the Veil Breakers. The thumbnail is really, well, I'm not allowed to say this on YouTube, but sexy. And it was a really good thumbnail. I really like this. thumbnail, but his first prologue or whatever, his first episode was so. I think his second one will be better. Don, he submitted not a story, but a piece of news about a U.S. Army Ranger who slew, and a plastic one at that, which I thought was so incredible. It should be in Warrior Wednesday.
With the plastic
Judge me all you
spoon?
want, but I thought that was neat. Yeah, he slew a man with a plastic spoon.
That's like
that is
John
weird.
Wick right there.
Yeah, I know. And I looked it up. Apparently, it might be factual. So it's one of those things where truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
We have Catherine again, with the death of the lake. I prefer her Daughter of Wolves story, but I've not read her Daughter of the Lake, or Death of the Lake, I mean. And she's very prolific. She's writing 4 serials at the same time. And my only thing with her is that I find that her Julian character, Wolf one, is. Did I break up there?
Just for a sec, but I can hear you loud now.
Pardon?
You only broke up for a second, but I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. My internet's been weird all week long. Maybe I'll have to shut down. I just found what was wrong. I'm going to just quickly save one quick file. I'll do this. And I'm going to close up one program. I just noticed it might be what's interfering with my internet right now. Anyways, Catherine, the only thing I find she struggles with seems to be writing male characters. And I know that's might not be a popular thing to comment, but it's just, I find her male hero Julian just totally unlikable. He's just such a wuss. And it's just, he breaks down crying in chapter 1, and in chapter 3 he starts confessing all his fears, and I'm like, is there anything you're not afraid of? Because he has so many fears that I'm like, dear God, man, like, butch up. I know I shouldn't say that, and I know she works hard on her stories, and I do like her prose and her dialogue. Her dialogue is really good, very good, but it's just this entire thing with this Julian character that I can't get around to him. I don't know if it's the same for you, Tom.
Yeah, I haven't read it, so I can't be a good judge yet.
Okay. And we have Nerdporial, who's a much larger Zelda and fantasy channel than I am. Finally caught you live. Hey, Nerdporial, how are you? And what do you think the eventual Zelda attraction would be at Super Nintendo Land? What do I think of it? I think it's going to be something that completely kills Disney. Like, the thing is, they've got one that they're building up ever more, the Super Nintendo Land over in Japan, and now they're building it over at Universal in America. And the thing is, this is actually going to sink Disney. Disney's got so many bad decisions they've made business-wise. This could kill Disneyland. And add to that Nintendo is playing it very carefully and whatnot. And I could see a Zelda dungeon reenactment, kind of like the indie ones at Disney World. Yeah, I could see that. I view it as we are definitely going to be getting Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf mascots. And what I suspect they're going to do is also the sword in the stone, so to speak, or the pedestal. That has Arthurianic references and it is very popular with people in the West because of King Arthur. And once they do that, I'm sorry, but that's very symbolic for us Westerners, especially for those of us of Celtic descent, and that's going to kill Disney. And the trouble is, I don't know if even Nelson Peltz, who's trying to take over Disney, is going to be able to put it back on its feet at that point.
No, the only way they're going to really fix it is they're going to have to do a top down, fire everybody that works at Disney.
To an extent, yeah. Games like Zelda, especially A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time, really was my gateway into fantasy, especially Tolkien. Yeah, it kind of was like that for me. At 2 years old, I remember watching my brother playing A Link to the Past. And between that and Beauty and the Beast, they really got me into fantasy. And then there's Suikoden, and then there's reading stuff like The Hobbit, Dragonlance, and all that years later. As well as Strumpf. That was before I read any of that other stuff. But yeah, that's a major factor in the attraction and whatnot. And we'll get back to that later because I do want to discuss that more at length with you, Tom. It's part of the reason I wanted to have this on the Brothers Hyrule, as there's a lot of Nintendo and Zelda news that's been popping up. And I really wanted your perspective on it, Tom, but we'll just zip through these indie fantasy stuff. Marco's got a story, House of Darkstalker. The thumbnail has an orc, I think. Looks great. Marco's a great writer. He's actually inspired by Zelda. He's a big Zelda fan. And I really like that it's like Knights of the Autumn Crown, which really feels like a nod to Zelda with all of its Celtic elements. I really like Marco. Josh Tater's another one I like, although he and I completely disagree on things like Tolkien, Lion King, Brother Bear, but I really do like his stories. And he wrote an essay or a blog post about, I think, how he got into fantasy writing, which is a pretty cool thing. Michael Marpung continues his Roman fantasy, the Centera commentaries, which I'm really behind on reading, which actually look really interesting. Andrew Smith has come out with a history essay about the Varangian Guard. And these were Norsemen who became bodyguards for the Greek emperors over in Greece and Eastern Europe in what was called the Empire of Byzantium, or the Byzantine Empire. Some call it the Roman Empire or the Eastern Roman Empire, because it was at one point. But over the centuries, it eventually veered away from the Latin and became ever more Greek. And so it became a Greek empire. And it is which is very fascinating. And their capital was Constantinople. And the Varangians were Norsemen that the Greeks hired to protect their emperors. And they did so for centuries, very loyally and very impressively. It's a very fascinating part of history.
Yeah, they were overthrown by the Ottomans.
Yeah. The man behind the screen returns with an essay, one about FF14's expansion, which I don't have too much of an opinion. I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy guy. I don't know about you. I just prefer FF6 and 10, and the rest I don't really care about. Well, I do kind of like 8, but even then, I got problems with the game.
Yep.
T.S. Bowl is an incredible talent. He's submitted a really amazing poem, a sonnet, and he's also an editor and a great writer, usually slipping in a lot of romance. I got to read more of his stuff. You have Red Oscar, who's always really good. And I love the title here, Dying for a Beer. Which, honestly, that title. And the thumbnail used was more classic painting, which I really liked that. I can't even guess at what the story is too much about. But I imagine some guy probably dies trying to grab himself a beer, which is pretty awesome.
The altar of fire. What's that?
That's Dan's contribution with his new pulp hero, Eric Einarsson, who the idea is a Norse Conan of sorts. And his backstory is going to be detailed in The Crown of Blood. That's coming out in a little while. And he appears in several of the short stories in The Crown of Blood. And he's a very important character. And in that story, and he's going to have his own anthology series of sorts, modeled after, to an extent, the adventures of Conan and Kull. Now I'm just going to go up in the chat and all right. Nerdporial explained his church got him into Lord of the Rings as well. Oh, that's cool. What does the Brothers Crin channel generally cover? Sorry to derail the conversation. All things fantasy. Typically Dragonlance, because, Crin. That's taken from Dragonlance. Lord of the Rings, Conan, or I should say the Hawaiian Age, Zelda, Warcraft, and yeah, so all things fantasy, really. And these days I'm doing a lot of chill streams there and trying to cover a lot of indie fantasy because I want to show some love for that as well. 7. Oh, I despise 7. I consider it one of the worst Final Fantasies of all times. And the thing is, it's just a cheap clone of FF6, except without the charm. Dirge of Cerberus massively improved it, but there's only so much that Vincent Valentine, as a great character as he is, can salvage from the confused, unedited mess. And the thing about FF7 is that it was a rough draft. They never actually finished the draft until years later, and they released the game completely unedited. And you have characters like Tifa who were slipped in because they were like, she was top-down commanded, and you can tell she's not supposed to be in the game because she doesn't play, like, there's problems with her role. And they just, she was, well, we need TNA, so let's come up with a character who just fits that role. And she somehow became a fan favorite for 2 very large reasons, but she does not have much of a personality. Aerith is a much better female lead and a much sexier one. So yeah, I'm also going to throw that one in. Cloud, for example, has the same backstory as Terra, except without the drama and the great characterization. And he's just Cloud Mick emo. So yeah, I don't agree with most FF fans. 10 was underwhelming. I barely remember it. Funny enough, I actually remember it far better and find it much more moving and beautiful than 7 or 9. So we're going to have to disagree. I think 9 was wasted potential. Could have been great, but the problem is it really missed the boat on a lot. 7 was not a clone of 6. Yes, it was, but we'll have to disagree there. 7 was deeper, but 6 had the better ending. And I love 6, and especially that final battle of Kefka. Yeah, that battle of Kefka is awesome. I think 6 is deeper than 7. 7's just a product, in my opinion. It shifts for me between 6 and 7, which is my favorite. Okay, that's fair enough. Like, I have a hardcore hatred for 7. Also, because what it did for the medium and the genre in video games was move it away from the single creative, because they did fire the writer early on and finish the game in committee. And this committee working together to dictate the story and is something that I disagree with. Number 6 was more a story-based, like came from the pen of a single writer. And 7 moved steadily more into committee's land, to my knowledge. And that's where I find that it's just 7 is just hard to love for me. And I just find it hard to remember and rather boring. But Nerdporial, love what you love. Like, don't listen to me. And often my tastes run very different from other people. 6, I think, was written by Sakaguchi himself. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I really like Sakaguchi. Um, Great writer. 6 honestly has also, in my opinion, the greatest female lead, Tara, whom is such a great lead. I really love Tara. Dissidia did her no favors by turning her into a damsel. But she had to be written down because we can't have a badass female. I'm joking there, but like, then again, I would argue Bart's and Squall were not written well in Dissidia either. So, like, neither was a Dane. So, like, you have like 3 or 4 FF characters who were written really badly. So it's not just Terra. This is something that cuts across both sexes because, like, how you can screw up. Like, Zidane's not that hard to write, and he is a good character. How you can screw it up, I don't know. But, like, they apparently found a way. But, yeah, I'm very bitter towards Square Enix these days. But that said, that wraps it up for the indie fantasy stuff. And I hope people don't think I was arguing too much with the chat. Like, that's never.
You were good. You know, it's good to have some open things once in a while.
Okay. And I do have respect for Nerdporial. Like, trust me, his knowledge of Zelda lore runs way deeper than mine ever will. And his love for Ocarina of Time is something I have a hardcore, huge amount of respect. Trust me. Check out his video on that. Like, I should pin that in with our other links in the comment section after this stream. Like, seriously, his Zelda videos are freaking good. Let's see. Agree to disagree, my friend. Yeah. And honestly, like, I like Vincent. I like Sid. I like Reeve from Final Fantasy VII. So there are things I like. Even Aerith I kind of like. But I liked Cloud in Kingdom Hearts 1 and to an extent 2, but I just don't care for him in the original FF7 game. But that said, I know there's probably going to be some people going, I'm going to hit the unsubscribe button. But that said, it's just, I prefer FF6 and 10. But I just think that I got complaints on FF7, and I think it's had a negative influence on RPGs. But if people disagree, like, disagree away. Keep playing FF7, the original, I would argue, because the original has pretty good gameplay. And, you know, like, have fun. That's all video games are for. And, yeah, I have some hot takes myself. You're not alone. We should have a discussion in the future. Sure. I'd especially want to discuss Zelda, because Nerdporial's got a freaking awesome Zelda set of videos. Perhaps a Chillporial. Sure.
Aren't they doing a Zelda movie next?
Yep. Which we'll get to in a minute.
Is it live action or animated?
I think it's gonna be live action. But Nerdporial, if you want, you could shoot me a message over on Twitter, and I'll get back to you, because I'm liable to, after this, probably eat, sleep, forget, and, you know, I'm gonna need the reminder to join you for a Chillporial. Live action. I have some concerns. Feel free to share them. I have my own concerns. Here, let me see if I can get my camera working. Okay, good. I hope my internet holds. Now, first off, I found something on Twitter which I thought was really cool. And I really wanted your opinion on this before we dive into Nintendo Land and the movie, Tom. And since Nerdporial's here, it'd be great to also
Oh, you're kind of breaking up there.
now.
Well, looks like Brothers Hyrule's having some connection problems, but we'll get back to him pretty soon. Anyway, I'm Tom Highland. I occasionally join Brothers Crin on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I'm an Iron Age rider, and
Sorry about that. Okay.
yeah, I was starting to struggle there.
Yeah, sorry. All right, let's go back. Hopefully this will work. I'm going to restart my reading because I don't know where it cut off. People talk about the trope of the male hero rescuing the female as a way to make women seem weak and helpless. This is a way to view this trope, but I think it is a very limited view. For men, the fantasy of saving the princess is not about wanting women to be useless or helpless. The fantasy is about the man being useful and needed in a way that no one else can be. And honestly, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And especially since Zelda's wearing a low cut top there. I'm joking. But the story of the brave hero enduring pain and discomfort, fighting against monsters to rescue the princess, isn't about trying to remove agency from the female character. It's about for men to experience the fantasy of being truly needed, something that men in the modern world strongly desire but rarely get to feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that's very much true. I think especially this modern storytellers try to write the man out of the picture.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think that's why Zelda has endured the way it has. There's the fantasy that you get to rescue the princess that comes with Zelda. And that's entirely the idea. Heck, as much as I'm not big on some of the main titles because I'm someone who's really fond of Hyrule Warriors, just because I like Linkle and Sia. But on the other hand, I do like to play as Link there as well. But the thing is, even once I finally tried Link to the Past, I loved it. And I'm not very good at Ocarina, but like there is an excitement with it because you get to save the lady. Fair. But the thing is, I think that it's very important that we have that sort of fantasy. And I'll just quickly go through the chat again. We lost Corinne. Oh no. Yep. And I'm back. Although I can't really put on the camera. I think I'm going to be camera-less for a bit. Sorry. You have command now. I've been there myself for streams. Oh, do you mean like where you've lost it? What have you written, Tom? Tom, you've written a couple of Westerns. You've written some excellent essays on fantasy movies and other movies. Honestly, like Nerdporial, I'll be posting after the stream his links. And it's like some of his essays, like on the Cull movie, are really good. And you also wrote a really good Godzilla -1 review.
Yeah, and I think in 2 weeks the black and white version is going to be coming to theaters here, so I'll definitely be seeing that.
The black and white one.
Oh yeah,
which?
you haven't heard? They're re-releasing -1 here in North America in black and white as well.
Okay, I don't live anywhere near a movie theater, So I might have to wait till almost March if it's still in theater to see it, because I'll be visiting possibly the U.S. around that time.
What part of the U.S.?
Ohio.
Ohio. Oh.
You ever been there?
No, but there's a joke here on Hilton Head that Hilton Head is the capital of Ohio because so many people from Ohio come here.
Okay, that's funny. There's a lot of jokes at the expense of Ohio.
Yeah.
It seems like they're the butt of a lot of people's jokes because Michigan and Minnesota seem to crack a lot of jokes at their expense as well. Because I've met some people from those areas and they seem to crack jokes.
Well, Minnesota's Fargo territory.
Okay. Let's see. A Link to the Past sets up the stakes remarkably well in the prologue. Yes. Have you ever played A Link to the Past?
No, I never was much of a gamer. I when I was growing up, I had a Nintendo 64 that I played, but eventually it broke, and I have an Xbox 360, but I haven't played it in a while. But I can't get any new games in that either because that system's outdated.
Looks like the dog's crying. About it.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
It's okay. I have a dog who does the same thing. But as for Link to the Past, it has a great prologue. To be honest, Tom, I do on my brother's Hyrule channel in particular. I have, you can also find it on Brothers Crin. I have a bunch of videos where I follow the game story and explain the symbolism, the ideas, the writing, and some of the lore. It's not as good a retrospective as Nerdporials, but I do make a half-assed attempt. But that said, I used to be a mega gamer, but like I was really into it. I wasn't very good, but I was really into gaming. But then a few years ago, I think it was after I came back from Japan, I started to drift away from gaming. And at this point, I do more reading and writing and drawing, and I'm not terribly into gaming anymore.
Yeah, the gaming takes up so much time, and it takes time away from writing for me, so that's why I don't really game.
Yeah, same. But Dan really likes it and uses it more to unwind sometimes, so it's fine. And yet somehow he finds time to do quite a bit of writing as well, so it's pretty damn impressive. I get shivers just thinking about it. The prologue of Link to the Past. I wish we got a Link to the Past novel. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, Godzilla minus one color. I think that's out of theaters right now. It made like, I don't know. Are you coming from the States, Nerdporio?
Yeah, I think he is from this U.S.
Well, Switch. Well, I have thought about that, but I barely game myself. That I just don't see the justification spending the money on it.
Link to the Past. Yeah, has a comic and a manga. They're pretty good, but excuse me. That said, I think that they're quite good, but like I said, I think a novel just there's something special about a novel. Yep, Chicago. All right, so you're in the same area as Matt from Dork Lords. Older games take very little of your time. Oh, okay.
Well,
yeah.
I do like to play board games. I've been wanting to get into the tabletop RPGs, but I tried to look into Dungeons and Dragons, but that's just a little too complicated for me. I just need something more simple. So I did pre-order the Fire and Ice RPG game that that was on the Kickstarter. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but I'm still waiting up on that one. So I'll let you guys know how that one is.
My internet up there. Let's see. Games like Tears of the Kingdom, though, geez, it's like they didn't consider the time wasted on quests. Now, Tears of the Kingdom was terrible. It was just horrifyingly bad. It should have been fantasy, instead it was science fiction. And that's something that I just can't get around to. For me, it should be fantasy or nothing for Zelda. I don't know. And I know people really like their Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't think Tears of the Kingdom is at all very good for people either, because it just feels like the passion for it is part of this consumer culture that seems to have gripped a huge chunk of the world, and that it doesn't contribute anything to the genre or to Zelda itself. It actually subtracts from Zelda. And I think I would have preferred it had they gone more in a dark fantasy horror direction and continued the Child Link timeline, or gone into continuing the World of Ruin timeline. Zelda has 3 timelines, just to explain it for Tom, who's not as familiar with Zelda. You have the adult timeline where Link beat Ganon, and got sent back to the past. You have the child timeline where he continued living through his childhood, and continued into Majora's Mask. And you have the World of Ruin where he basically died and Ganon ended up sealed away. And so the World of Ruin has more storylines of coming of age and traditional fantasy. You have Child Timeline, which has mostly horror, and you have Adult, which seems to have basically the high seas and exploration stuff. I was always partial to the first 2, Ruin and Child, as I'm a big fantasy and horror fan.
Yeah.
Agreed here. Breath of the Wild is the same. Metroid is the sci-fi property. Yes, it is. I'm not a big fan of the open world Zelda they are doing. No, I don't like it either. When I found out Wheel of Time is a post-apocalyptic with an Age of Legends like a sci-fi fantasy, I was disappointed. Yeah, that's why I can't seem to get into Wheel of Time. It's just,
oh god, I tried. I posted one of my recent articles about this. I was going to take time off to read the Conan Pastiche by Robert Jordan. Oh my god, it's horrible. It's terrible. The only thing that was good, it was literally, the best way I could describe it was that it essentially is a Robert Jordan Conan novel is essentially an 80s direct-to-video Roger Corman produced movie starring David Carradine that you and a couple of friends would rent one night and consume a bunch of alcohol, but you wouldn't dare watch a second time whether you're sober or not.
Wow, that's pretty specific.
Yeah. And it would have been better. It would have been better. I think it would have been better off if he would have changed the name of Conan and the locations of certain places and events and made up his own thing instead of tying it to Hyboria, because really it was like, if you're starting out on Conan, do not start reading Conan through Robert Jordan. Start from the source. That's Robert E. Howard himself.
Yeah.
But however, I do say though that I did read Conan the Destroyer, the novelization. And that actually wasn't a bad book. It was a good book, but I think part of that too is that the reason why is because that wasn't Robert Jordan's story. He was novelizing when you write a novelization, you're given a screenplay of at least of 6 months to a year in advance, and you have to like put in like words to the screenplay.
You basically just put in the descriptions. And yeah. But the thing is, Wheel of Time is incredibly popular. And as to Zelda with a live action, I've not kept up with the news, but what I had read had me worried and just struck me as likely to be full of the usual ideas and nonsense. And what I'd rather they do for a story would be something akin to Ocarina of Time or Link to the Past, but I'd want them to do it as a TV series. And that way they could expand on the lore, explore the characters, and generally just take things slow. And that's something that I'm starting to really think about with the fantasy genre. Take it slow. Don't like you could jump in like Howard did, but even Howard, for example, in Hour of the Dragon, takes his time to build into the story. He takes his time to establish his characters. Takes his time to set the tone, the themes, the ideas. It's not just like Conan's already racing across the fields and slaughtering bad guys. He takes his time. He establishes first the dark ritual of Xaltotum. He moves to Conan's tent, slowly easing us into it. And that's getting to be my attitude with this genre. Too often, too many writers jump right in and they just don't do a very good job. Now, for example, I'll actually give some praise to A Link to the Past. Jumps right in by having us immediately get the message from Zelda. I'm a prisoner in the castle. Help me. My life is in danger. And
Okay.
like no, she sends a telepathic message, basically like Leia, save me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And your uncle immediately rushes into action to go save her because she's actually trying to communicate with him. And Link then follows, and his uncle is slain in combat with Aghanim, the Dark Sorcerer. And Link then is given by his dying uncle his sword and shield. Now, the thing is, Link at the end of the game uses the Triforce to wish his uncle back to life and wish the king back to life because he truly cares about Zelda, but he also cares about all the loved ones people have lost over the course of the game. It's a very selfless thing. But the thing is, it plunges straight into the story. Now, Ocarina of Time slowly builds into the story, slowly works its way in to things. But the thing that I'm starting to think is, the people who think I'm just going to jump in. Well, you're going to confuse your readers. And, well, yeah, but Howard was able to do it a few times. You have, let me see, Tolkien who did it in Children of Húrin, or Zelda did it with A Link to the Past. Yeah, but you're not them. Before you start thinking you're so talented, you go use your training wheels. Go it slowly. Don't jump in thinking you're better than Tolkien or Howard or Sakaguchi or whoever. Jump in slow. It's okay to start at the shallow end of the pool and to slowly work your way in. Like Tolkien, like to think Lord of the Rings is this grand sweeping epic. The first 9 chapters are basically him just slowly building up the atmosphere and the mood. He's just slowly working his way towards the plot. He's slowly working his way to Rivendell. He's not not Rivendell, but like the Prancing Pony. And from there, it springs into action. It never relents. At least, except for the brief chapters spent in Lothlorien and Rivendell, where you get a slight break. Or at least a slight lull in the action before it picks right back up. But the thing is, Tolkien takes 9 chapters to slowly build his way towards action. And the reason he does this is because he didn't feel comfortable just jumping in to the action immediately.
Yeah, I kind of relate to that a bit because one of the issues I'm having when I'm world building my fantasy thing is that I have some of the characters mapped out in some of the different locations, but the somewhat of the lore a little bit fleshed out, but I just don't know where to start by just jumping in like Howard did. I just can't do that. I'm trying to figure a way how to build into it.
Well, okay, I would argue, 2 ways to do it. One way would arguably be to, for example, you have Phoenix on the Sword. Howard slowly builds his way up to Conan. He slowly works his way in, and Phoenix on the Sword is a really good short story, but never forget that it is just an intro story. It's a prologue, and there's no shame in the prologue approach. And at least for the first story, Eric's story, I found, feels more like a prologue short story.
I mean, Eric Wagg's story?
No, I said Dan.
Oh, Dan's story? I'm sorry, just my dog is making some noise right now, and I'm just trying to...
Yeah, his story of Altar of Fire slowly and works more like an intro, a prologue. And that's where I think when it comes to these pulpy anthology characters, the best approach is maybe a prologue short story and then slowly work your way, and use the second story more as a grandiose thing. I don't know.
So just start out writing it as a prologue type story first.
Maybe that might be a good approach. And on the other hand, if you're wanting to write a full-length novel, well, there's no shame in building up slowly, in starting with something like, how shall I put it? Starting with something like, The Hobbit. Like, The Hobbit starts very slow. Lord of the Rings starts very slow. And just take your time writing 1 or 2 chapters to just ease your way in. And on the other hand, if you want to go a little quicker, Howard takes 2 chapters to introduce, to an extent, the inciting action. On the other hand, Howard takes about 5 to 8 chapters just to set things up, I think.
So have you read the
4 chapters? That's what he takes. 4 to 6 chapters that he takes to start the story.
Yeah.
So
have you read the Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy novelizations?
Yeah.
Well,
better than the movies.
Yeah, I thought the books were better than the movies, but I kind of wanted to see the take that I'm sitting on is kind of like a hero's journey story, but combining 7 samurai.
Yeah. Well, you can start that in I would argue, if you want to learn how to start that slowly, watch A Bug's Life. Bug's Life starts very slowly, and is basically.
I've seen Bug's Life. Yeah, that's essentially 7 samurai, but
bugs.
By bugs.
Yeah, I like that movie. I don't know about you.
I like it. Did you see 7 Samurai by chance?
No. I'll have to watch it.
Okay. Here's an assignment for you. Watch 7 Samurai and then watch Three Outlaw Samurai, which is the anti-Seven Samurai.
Outlaw Samurai?
Three Outlaw Samurai. It's a Japanese movie that's about three samurai, but the movie itself is a prequel to a TV series that was on in Japan in the 60s. But as far as I know, the series itself hasn't been released outside of Japan.
Hmm.
The director is Hideo Gosha.
Hmm. It's an offshoot of Hideo Gosha's 1963 television series with the same name.
Yeah.
Three Outlaw Samurai. Okay.
Yeah. It's an origin story about how the three samurai met each other and got together and started walking the earth, like walking Japan, helping people out and stuff.
Okay. I'll check them both out. They might be good for content for my Hajioni Pon channel. All right, and Substack. Maybe I'll write some Substack articles about them. Besides Wheel of Time, I'm also reading Elric and the Dresden Files. I'm not familiar with Dresden Files. I have no idea what that is.
Dresden Files, Joe, is by Jim Butcher. It's kind of like, did you ever watch that Netflix movie Bright?
Yeah, I liked Bright.
It's kind of like Bright, but more of a lone kind of like a lone detective who's also a wizard. That I haven't read the books, but I've heard they're good, but they're episodic. Each book is episodic. It doesn't follow a
Okay, so he's a wizard like Harry.
As far as I
joking, I have to
know.
troll. As for Elric, I'm not a fan of Elric.
Elric of Melniboné?
No, I'm not a fan. People keep trying to push him on me, but I actually despise the idea of the story, and I find it that it's not my cup of tea, and I just find that honestly, it's not my cup of tea. But the more I resist, the more people keep trying to shove it down my throat, and the more they try to, the more I tell them I don't want to read it. And
well, the one that I'm really trying to get into is I'm trying to get the books first is the Cain books, the Cain series by Carl Edward Wagner, which is essentially Cain and Abel from the Garden of Eden, where Cain's father is Adam, but Cain's mother is Lilith, and he essentially angers a elder god, and he gets cursed. And he's forced to walk the earth, and he can die, but the only way he can die is if he dies in a battle, in a war. So he's getting from conflict to conflict each time, but he's like very, very like kind of imagine if Clint Eastwood was like an immortal version of Conan.
immortality doesn't appeal to me, except in I guess with the elves and whatnot, like in Tolkien. I don't know. It's just for some reason that just bores me. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have people saying this is a hot take. It's just I find like it's one of those people want to write with their first story, like Oscar Wilde once said, either Christ or Faust. And but I'll look up his Cain is the son of Lilith just in this fantasy series.
There is a story. There's an old story that Adam's first wife wasn't Eve. It was actually Lilith. This is like in one of the lost
Yeah,
books of the Bible or something that were never became part of the biblical canon. And
and
she was like the early example of a feminist. She wanted to be her own thing, and so
yeah,
she was cast out and she became a demon.
yeah. And the thing is, Cain though was the son of Adam and Eve. Um, oh yeah, that anime. One of those things where just one. Like, it seems like everything popular I don't like. I don't get Neon Genesis Evangelion. I don't understand its popularity. I actually liked Gundam and Zeta Gundam better. I'll never understand the popularity of this show. But likely I'm nuking my own platform by saying I don't like this popular thing or that popular thing or whatever. And it's just, like I said, feel free to disagree, people. Like, I don't have, at this point, I've reconciled myself to the fact that I'm going to disagree with the entire human race. But my guy, Mobile Gundam are the goat of Gundam shows. Zeta Gundam. Oh, yeah, yeah. Mobile Gundam and Zeta Gundam are the goat. The only one I like almost as much is G Gundam, but I find G Gundam just hilarious. It is utterly funny and so over the top. I really love that. And the tune, the theme song is really catchy. I'd probably play it, but I'd probably get a strike on YouTube, and I don't feel like getting more strikes. I've gotten enough of them. Yeah. Thankfully, I could probably show the one art, like the one thumbnail that the guy had on Twitter. You could tell there were lady parts, so I won't get a strike because I'm not using Brothers of Borean. Brothers of Borean, that's another reason why I'm having to be careful of that channel because I got a strike, a unfair one from YouTube. Because YouTube asses. And Evangelion is weird. Even after several rewatches, I barely understand it. Human instrumentality project where humanity turns to orange juice. I don't understand. I've never seen it, so I don't understand. I have no idea what you're talking about.
But I'm lost.
Yeah. But anyways, as for Zelda, now I'm also going to come out with another Nintendo hot take. I thought the Mario movie looked dumb, and so I didn't watch it. And I don't have any intention of watching it. Mario's not Italian anymore. There's no real character arc for him. And Peach seems like she's kind of girl bossing it. And I just thought this was exhausting and just more of modern nonsense. So why watch it? That's what I thought. And
well, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't be a judge of it yet.
Yeah, but well, it's just what I saw of the trailer had me like, oh yeah, this has got like Disney and whatnot all written all over it. Not my cup of tea. But I enjoyed the Mario movie. It was made for the whole family. Yeah, I guess. But I would argue Disney intend, like Disney and the rest of Hollywood, intend everything else that they make for the whole family. It's just not good for the whole family. But arguably, this is also them trying to give you a slight carrot so that you'll come and sign up for the other stuff. So, they'll give you table scraps so that you'll eat the dog food. And then the next time they'll slip in the dog food instead of the other stuff, and you'll devour that. That's the intent here. And I just think that intent or not, I just can't get on board. Even the Mario Bros. Super Show was honored, which really moved me. Okay. This is not my cup of tea, and I'm not going to watch it. So, yeah. As for The Legend of Zelda, I don't think this movie is going to be good because arguably they'll find a way to slip in Shike and poor dog. My sentiments exactly. Actually, I'm with your dog. Um, I think they'll slip in Shike, but they won't use Shike to pay homage to Zelda, but rather to demean Link. And Link, they're going to. He's going to be presented as a lovable doofus, but except he won't be lovable. He'll just be a doofus. And I think that that's really where I see it. And I view it as they're going to slip in all sorts of modernity in there. And this is going to run counter to the fantasy pre-modern elements. And they're going to try to also squeeze out what little Celtic and Japanese vibes there are. Because you've got to make it for a whole world audience. And this is why I didn't like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Because I do like looking at the Zelda story and lore. And it's just, yeah. But arguably, yeah. So, looks like the dog's happy.
Yeah.
He's gonna start licking your face.
She's
Gonna start licking your face. Looks like she's fairly affectionate.
Yeah, she is.
Kind of like my dog.
Yeah.
She's how old?
She's 5.
But she still acts like a puppy.
Yeah.
Ours is much the same way. He's almost 4, and he acts like a big baby as well, crying like that as well. But yeah, as for now, I'm done nuking myself in my channels. Wow, I probably shouldn't have confessed all these things on this channel. Like, I'm just a enfant terrible. But that said, like, there are some popular things I like Disney, old Disney. I mean, like old Disney movies. Those are great.
Yeah.
But arguably, what this might sound weird, but I'd want for a Zelda movie for them to have John Milius or something directing it.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think that a more sword and sorcery toned story would probably fit better for Zelda. And Milius, I'd say one should tell him you can't cast us in a Nordic style story like you did Conan. This has to be Celtic. And I think that he'd understand that and lean into that. Or you would have to hire a Japanese director. And there are a lot of Japanese directors who are very talented. They could easily nail this. I just think that if you have to go with a non-Japanese guy, John Milius would be a good choice. Andrew Adamson could create a massive sweeping epic.
Yeah.
And
but,
I think that
he did great with John Carter, but Disney, there is a story out there supposedly that Bob Iger tanked John Carter intentionally because he was trying to get he was trying to get Star Wars from George Lucas.
Yeah, well, knowing Bob Iger, that's very likely. Did Andrew Adamson actually direct John Carter?
He did.
I'm looking up his credits. Filmography: Shrek, Shrek 2, Chronicles of Narnia, Shrek the Third, Chronicle. He helped produce the Dawn Treader. I don't see John Carter.
Oh, Andrew Adamson directed John Carter, or was it Andrew Stanton?
Must be Andrew Stanton. Let me look up the John Carter movie. That was a great movie. I love that movie. Whoever was the casting director of that film should get a medal. Like,
yeah,
the casting in that movie was so perfect. And oh man, like it was primarily actors from Rome and the Wolverine Origins movie, but they were so well cast. especially Lynn Collins. She was a very perfect choice for Deja Thoris. Let me see. Let me check that director. Andrew Stanton.
Stan.
He's also the co-writer of all 4 Toy Story films: Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, Finding Dory. Let me check his filmography. The Incredibles. He helped to create. Oh, he did additional voices. Never mind. John Carter, he wrote and directed. Okay. What's he done since then? Nothing
I don't
impressive.
know.
No, like it looks like everything's been garbage since. For the most part.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I'm not a big sci-fi guy, and he seems to be a massive sci-fi guy.
Well, it's more of a space opera, kind of like a Sword and Planets thing. The genre called Sword and Planet.
Yeah. John Carter should have been titled Princess of Mars.
Oh, yeah. And they should have put Edgar Rice Burroughs' name on it.
Yeah. But the movie was quite good. There's a movie maybe later in February we should do a stream of you, full screen boss fight, and I.
John Carter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a.
Also, in this March coming up, they're going to release the John Carter, the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate is going to release all the 11 of the John Carter books, starting with the original 3 this March, with illustrations by Joe Jusko.
Okay, I don't care for the books because I tried reading the first one and the writing was so stilted.
I grew. You see, I remember I grew up reading that stuff since I was real little, so I was pretty much like crate trained into it. You can say.
Well, this would be something that if we were to do a John Carter stream, I'd want to do that later in the month, maybe around the 17th or 20th, thereabouts, because
let's do it.
Yeah, but as for next week, just a spoiler to people, we'll be, I'm hoping, streaming next week, and I'm inviting you, Tom, to stream Solomon Kane with full screen boss fight.
Oh, I haven't seen the movie.
Okay. Well, it's a good movie, and if you want, you can get a hold of it.
I'll see what I can do, but every copy that I look up, if I don't like to buy used DVDs or Blu-rays, but the cheapest new one on eBay is like $40.
Holy shoot! Yeah,
you see where I'm coming from with this.
Yeah. Anyways, we're starting to do various semantics. So, anything you want to add on the fantasy front?
Nope.
All right, we've covered everything. So don't forget to smash that like, that subscribe button. Here, go check out our Substacks. I'll be publishing the article of I showed, and also check out Tom's Substack.